to be successful on honestly any platform, you need a myriad of skills to make this work, and I really wish people would keep that in mind. Hey Buns, it's Lely here, and I wanted to do another video where I talk about my experiences on Twitch. I haven't quite been doing this for a whole year yet, but I still think it's really useful to hear from someone's point of view who's just starting out. Maybe they can give you some clarity, like trying to build a brand, trying to grow, trying to network, things like that. Just like I said in my previous video about Twitch, I'm not here to give you necessarily like advice. Like, I'm not here to tell you how to for sure build your channel. I'm not trying to what's going to make you successful. This is mostly just telling you my personal experiences and things that I've learned so far in my, since September, what is this, like 10 months of streaming? Not even. So I asked people in my Discord what they would like to know, what kind of questions they'd like to ask me, what kind of things they'd like me to answer and talk about, and I've also added a few questions that are just personally things that I want to talk about, so hopefully it'll keep me you know, focused here. I have a tendency to like blank in front of the camera really badly, so here's to hoping. Also, I'm filming this with my webcam instead of my fancy camera because it's just a lot easier for me at this point to record videos straight on my desktop instead of having to use my camera and then put it on my laptop because my laptop is anyways, let us continue on with the question. I've written them down, so here we go. Why did you start streaming? What was your goal? So I started streaming in September of 2020. I started my channel that February though, so I wanted to start streaming earlier than September, but then I got really busy with finishing up my senior year of undergrad, and then I had the critical language scholarship for Korean language. I got accepted into that program, and I did that during the summer, and it's very intensive, and it was all online, so I didn't have time to really maintain a channel before then. So I got started seriously in September, and you know, ever since I was a little girl, I really just loved video games, and I always wanted to do something with that medium. I love telling stories. I love how immersive it gets. I love how you connect to characters, and I wanted to be able to talk to other people about, namely my favorite game. If you can't tell, it's Final Fantasy VII. I mean, besides our little sweet frog girl here, but Cloud is my favorite character. Aerith is my second favorite character, and this is a story I've cared about since I was like 14 years old. It's been, goodness, over a decade since I've gotten into the game, and that's ultimately what I really wanted to do. I wanted to make friends within games, whether that be people who consume that content or people who create that content. If you don't know already, on my channel I stream RPG and indie games, so I really get interested in the process of creating the game, writing the story, designing the characters, and I feel like indie games are probably the best way to get like a real look into that process, because a lot of them are, you know, they're small developers, and they're more than happy to share that process with you. You know, they're not coming from AAA studios, and they don't have as many like things that they can't talk about with the public that they can't share, and they're usually artists. They're very passionate people, and if I could get into the gaming industry, if I could make video games, I would love to do that. So if through streaming I can find a way to be a part of that industry, that would be absolutely wonderful. But actually, at the end of the day, what's really important to me is connection and putting good out into the world, leaving the world a better place than when I entered it, leaving the world a better place. And for me, that means creating safe places. That means creating an environment where people can grow and learn, and they feel comfortable with that. People feeling comfortable with making mistakes and getting better as they go, and that's something that's really important to me, especially as a kid who basically grew up on the internet because there was no one like me growing up. There was no one who had the same interests as me growing up. And I mean, being in little old Michigan, like there wasn't anything for me there. I didn't really have my own community. All my friends were online and they were states away. And honestly, that helped me so much to just even be able to find people like that. So if I can do that for someone else, whether they be a teenager or an adult, I mean, a lot of my content on stream is 18 plus probably, mostly for all the cussing, to be fair. But if I can provide a safe environment for someone like that, then I'll say that my goal is achieved. What has been the biggest learning curve? I think for me, because I'm really shy and I get especially really shy in front of the camera, I blank, I completely lose all sense of thought, and especially if I'm not home alone. Oh my god, like, so I have a roommate, right, and the walls in our house are really thin, so whenever I'm recording or anything, I know that people can hear me, and it makes me really self-conscious, even though I know rationally she doesn't care. It's enough in my head that it makes me act foolish. I completely lose like all train of thought. If you can't tell, right now I'm home alone. I'm a lot better at doing this. I'm entirely alone. But so yeah, for me, learning how to be comfortable with talking to a camera, talking to people whose faces I can't see, whose voices I can't hear, getting comfortable with that, getting comfortable with just talking to people in general, that's a huge learning curve for me. I don't do well at public speaking whatsoever, but I do think since I started, I've gotten a lot better. I think I conduct myself in front of a camera and in front of an audience a lot better than I did when I first started, and that's honestly, like, that's something that I really like to see. I like to go back and see how much I've grown, and I really do feel like I've gained skills through streaming that I probably wouldn't have achieved otherwise, and that's something I can be proud of. It's growth that I can actually see because I can go back and look at my old videos and see how much I've, especially when it comes to editing highlight videos. I feel like the later videos, I'm a lot better at like making jokes and just talking casually. I feel like there's a lot more to highlight. It feels less like I'm grasping at just whatever I can find. I feel like it happens a lot more easily. I feel like I'm a lot better at making jokes in my editing, so that's really good. Like, I love seeing that improvement, and ever since I told myself that we're not gonna try to be perfect, we're just gonna try to make something, like create. Just create. That's all we need to do. And ever since I told myself to stop being such a perfectionist, that's where I've started to see the most growth on my channel and being proud of the content that I'm making now, because I'm just doing it. I'm not holding myself to such a high standard anymore, and that's been wonderful for me. I'd say the other learning curve is probably figuring out how to put myself out there. Like learning how to do editing, for example. Like I never worked with really good video editing software growing up. When I used to make AMVs for YouTube as a teenager, like I was using Windows Movie Maker, which is like absolutely awful. It's just, there's nothing you can really do with that. It's basically you're just trimming frames and putting them all together. But I've been teaching myself how to edit video, and that's been really cool. That's a new skill I've learned, and that's really exciting. The hardest thing is definitely just being comfortable with putting myself out there and figuring out how to use all these different platforms to put myself out there. That's definitely the biggest thing for me. How difficult is it being a female streamer? Let me tell you, I get imposter syndrome a lot just by means of being a girl on Twitch, because half the time I can't tell if people are watching because they genuinely enjoy spending time with me, or if they're watching because I'm a decent looking girl on Twitch. That definitely does a lot, like, especially when the majority of my audience appears to be male, from what I can tell, and that isn't inherently bad. I mean, I do I do really kind of wish that I had more girls in my audience. Like, I do notice when there are more women in the audience, I feel a little more comfortable. Not to say that any of the gentlemen that are currently in my audience, like, they, a lot of my main, like, audience, a lot of the people who talk to me every day, who show up for every stream, like, or they offer me a lot of support. I don't really have a problem with any of them. They feel more like brothers, which is really nice. Like, if I were to describe the kind of vibes we get, it's very much like a brotherly, like, just friends kind of thing. Like, they don't make me feel uncomfortable. They don't make me feel like they're flirting with me or being gross. And I'm very lucky to have that, because I know not every girl on Twitch has that. I have, unfortunately, had some really awful situations, and if you didn't watch my first video, I talk about how I have been what I call love bombed, and it was some gentleman from another person's stream, all of which I'm not going to name because it doesn't matter. It's been resolved, so it's fine. But the thing is like, it was deeply uncomfortable. It was kind of scary, and it made me feel really bad about myself. And there's definitely been times where I've had gentlemen treat me in a way that I felt was crossing some lines or breaking some boundaries. I've definitely had, I think I actually do have every once in a while I'll get somebody who comes in and they'll call me little pet names like Boo or Love or something, and most of the time I can just kind of like roll my eyes and, you know, keep going with stream. But it is kind of like, would you do that to some guy that you were watching on Twitch? Like, I don't get that. Like, I've had to tell a few guys, like, hey, you know, I'm in a committed relationship, first of all, and he's always lurking, so chances are he might see the things that you say. But even if I didn't have a boyfriend, like, there's no reason to talk that way. And also, I just think that people assume that if you're a girl on Twitch, that everything just automatically happens for you, and that's definitely not true. I have been struggling in my own ways. I definitely have a really hard time figuring out how to grow my channel and how to be entertaining, because that's the thing. You can look cute all day long, and it doesn't mean people are gonna want to stay, because there's a million people on Twitch who are cute but also funny. So yeah, there might be girls who they get a little ahead because they look good, but like ultimately they also have other skills that they're using. And so when you have me, who's awkward and trying to figure out how to be comfortable in front of camera, like, I don't know. It's annoying. I hate it. I hate it when people accuse girls of having it easy on Twitch because they're a lady streamer, because they're a titty streamer, or whatever the hell they want to call it. It's just like, I'm sorry that you don't want to take accountability or responsibility for the fact that your lack of success on Twitch is your fault and not anyone else's fault. Because that's usually what it comes down to. Usually the people that make those comments that get really angry at women for being successful on Twitch, it's usually because they're also streaming on Twitch and they aren't as successful, and they've been doing it for maybe longer or just as long, and they're jealous and frustrated, and they can't understand that nobody wants to just watch them stare at a screen and be angry at it for hours on end, you know? Like, you gotta be funny. You gotta bring something to the table no one else is. And that's your own fault if you can't figure out how to do that. Like, that's kind of the thing. Everyone on Twitch is mostly self-made, I would say. Like, you're working on yourself, you're promoting yourself, it is a full-time job, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's just not easy. I think being a girl, it really sucks when any of your success is always boiled down to just the fact that you are a woman on the internet. Like, you have no idea how many hours I put into editing, how many hours I put into playing games and coming up with other skills that I need to be successful, to be entertained. All the times I've cried because I can't figure out how to do something, or because I feel alone on this platform, like, they just have no idea. Everyone is hustling as hard as they can, and I think to say that anyone's success is due in part only to their looks or only to their personality or their accent or whatever it might be, that's so unfair, because any one of those things is not enough to you need to have multiple skills to be successful on this platform. To be successful on honestly any platform, you need a myriad of skills to make this work, and I really wish people would keep that in mind. How do you feel about the Twitch mod system? This one is hard for me to answer just because I feel like I haven't personally had any big issues. There are other streamers who have had issues where trolls will come into their channel and trick them into posting something inappropriate or do something against the rules, and then they'll get flagged or they'll get suspended, even though it's like they had no idea and other users came in and caused that issue. And it does feel really unfair. On one hand, I can totally understand why they kind of just have all these bots or like auto mod functions that are meant to catch these things, because there's so many people on Twitch, so many accounts, so many live streams happening at any given moment. Like, there's no way they can catch everything quickly enough to where it prevents the most, like, it prevents enough of the negativity that could come out of it. So unfortunately, I think things like that where someone is wrongfully suspended, I don't think they're ever going to be able to truly get rid of that, because so much of this does kind of have to be automated. The word I'm looking for. So much of this stuff has to be automated just because of the pure number of things going on. However, it would be nice if there was a more dedicated department for this sort of thing. I don't know if there already is. Again, this is a question that's really difficult for me to answer. I think personally, when it comes to Twitch and their terms of service, their policies, things like that, I really do wish they would listen to the people on the platform more and what we need. I don't know why they keep changing chat features, especially to like that more recent one where they changed it to have like this thread. To me, that's not helpful actually, and it's messy, and I don't think that's gonna last very long. I wish they would offer like a trans tag, which the community's been asking for forever. There's a million other things that the community has been begging for ages, and it just falls on deaf ears, and then they end up fixing things that nobody is asking to be fixed. So it kind of feels performative after a while. It feels like they're just doing things because they would rather do something else than listen to the people in their community. So in line with the Twitch mod system, I kind of feel that kind of works in with that. Like, I feel like Twitch needs to be listening a lot more, because, you know, we do have issues with bots. Like, for example, yeah, I've been view botted before, and it's really infuriating. It's really frustrating to have somebody just like throw a bunch of bots at you and screw up your numbers. Like, that sucks. And there's not really a good way to prevent that. Like, there's so many known bots on the platform, and yet they've been there forever, for years, some of them, and Twitch just lets them go. So that to me, like, again, there are so many other problems on Twitch, and they just don't pay attention to the things that people actually want done. How do you juggle personal life and streaming? I don't. I really don't. It's very difficult for me. The biggest thing about content creation, about being a full-time content creator, is you basically are working 24/7. Like, everything you do on Twitter is going to reflect back on you as a streamer. Anything I do on YouTube is going to reflect back. Anything I do on Instagram is going to reflect back. Anything I do on TikTok is going to reflect back. So there's kind of this complete loss of work time and personal time. You feel like if you're online, you need to take every opportunity to earn some kind of viewership. You need to put something funny on. And even if you're thinking of like you could be ranting about something very personal to you online, but then that suddenly becomes a part of your content. So that means your personal feelings that you've just tweeted onto Twitter that has nothing to do with your brand, it just inherently becomes part of your brand. You have now posted content out into the world associated with your brand. And that's the thing when you're a content creator, you're basically selling your personality and all of your opinions and all of your thoughts, and that can really mess with your perception of self and your perception of how you interact with the world, how that exchange works. Like, I constantly feel like I'm never working enough, but at the same time I also always feel like I'm always working. Like, I'm just constantly exhausted. I constantly feel like I never have a break, but that I'm always on a break, and it's really weird. It would probably help me a lot if I could come up with a more clear, defined, like, routine to do every day, to have like certain things in motion. I try to record or edit videos every Tuesday and Thursday for YouTube or TikTok, so I do have some semblance of routine, but it's just not structured enough. I need to structure it more. So yeah, I know I'm not the only creator on Twitch who has this struggle too. I think that's the biggest struggle, that it doesn't matter how far along you get. I'd say this is pretty common across the board, even for partners, even for people who have been streaming since, 2016. Like, I've seen so many streamers have this issue where they don't have a separation between work and personal time, and they get burnout constantly, and it's exhausting, and never knowing when to just stop, like just when it's time to rest. Half the time you don't realize it's time to rest until your body tells you it's time to rest, and it can leave you struggling for a while. There's streamers that I love dearly who have brought me so much comfort, and I'm watching them just struggle every day to even turn on the camera. I think with time, becoming more comfortable with myself and becoming more comfortable with video editing, or just being on Twitch, playing games in front of people, it gets easier over time, but you still kind of feel that pressure no matter what, especially if you had a really good day and you're riding that high, and then the next day comes and really not that successful, and then that really, like, that messes with you. That's probably the biggest thing with Twitch, is the way it is so up and down. Like, it is constant. Like, there are really, really high days and really, really low days, and it's constant, and that never goes away. And I think that is one of the hardest things to cope with. So if this is something you want to get into, I'm just warning you, be prepared for really high highs and really low lows. Those are the only questions I had to answer this time around. If you have any other questions for me to answer, I might do like another Q&A sometime. I might even do like a live stream Q&A. That might be fun. But yeah, if you just found me and just happened to watch this video and you don't know me from Twitch, and you want to watch me on Twitch, feel free to follow. My handle is lully__bunny with 2 underscores. One day I will get that the way I would prefer it to be, but for now there are 2 underscores. You can also follow me on various other social media, which I will have linked below. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, hit the bell, and hit that like button, and leave me a comment telling me, I don't know, what's your favorite amphibian? I love frogs, if you can. Until next time, bye-bye!